Nick Andros, manning the prison while Sheriff Baker recuperates at home.
Ray's gonna be back, you know. When he gets back, be gonna wish he was blind as well as deaf and dumb. Hey, dummy, can we get some breakfast, do you think? And a doctor. I'm sick. I need a doctor.
Nick left a note before heading out. Dear Sheriff or whoever, I've gone to get breakfast for the prisoners and to see if I can't hunt down Doc Soames for Vince Hogan, who appears to be really sick and not playing possum. Nick Andros. Or Franny Goldsmith's been trying for the last 3 hours to write a letter to Grace Duggan, a high school chum now going to Smith. It wasn't meant to be a confessional "I'm pregnant" letter, just a friendly "how are you" letter, but it wasn't allowing itself to be written. Thus far, Franny had managed, "I have problems of my own. Boy, do I have problems. I just don't have the heart to write them all down." Jess, the father of Franny's child, calling from Portland.
You got a lot of static at home, huh?
Well, I got some. She didn't want to get into the scene she had had with her mother that would have made them conspirators of a sort, and Fran and Jess weren't. Not anymore. My offer still stands, Franny. Say yes, and I can buy a couple of rings and be there this afternoon. I know you could, Jess, but I'm not ready to get married, and that has nothing to do with you. Her voice was calm. She didn't want to giggle or cry, though there was a danger of both. What about the baby? I'm gonna have it, and then give it up? I haven't decided. I wonder about that baby. Franny doubted if Jess really did, but it was maybe the only thing he could think of to say that would cut her, and it did. Jessie, neither of us wanted this baby. We agreed on the pill so this baby wouldn't happen. You don't have any responsibility. They talked some more, awkwardly, and when they hung up, they didn't say "I love you." And that was a first. It made Fran sad, so she got back to her note. I expect to celebrate with you on the 4th, unless your plans have changed. When I see you, I'll tell you all. I sure could use your advice. The second call was from her father, phoning to say that her mother was sick, and that the doctor had been by to see her. Flu? Oh Lord, Daddy, that's no joke for a woman her age.
No, it isn't.
A stab of worry went through Fran's heart. I told old Doc Edmonton everything. About your baby, about the fight you and Carla had. I want to know if any of that could have caused her physical breakdown. He said no, flu is flu. Flu made who? Edmonton said there's a nasty breed going around. And you know how busy your mother keeps herself with these charities. She works harder than me. She had the welcome mat out for the first evil germ that passed her way, that's all. Peter was trying to keep his daughter from feeling guilty. It wasn't working. Do you think she'd mind if I...
Right now she would, Franny. But give her time. She'll come around.
Maybe she would if I gave up my baby, Fran thought. At the end of their conversation, Peter promised his daughter that he would visit or call if Carla's situation worsened. Then, after much agonizing, Fran finally finished her letter to Grace. Believe in me, and I'll believe in you. Outside, purple and black clouds were gathering over Ogunquit Harbor. A storm was coming. Jane's Place, we're open. To anything.
Listen, wise guy, this isn't... Wait a minute, Larry?
Yeah, Arlene, it's me, hi. Where are you, Larry? Nobody's seen you. Well, I'm on the East Coast. Somebody told me there were bloodsuckers on me and I ought to get out of the pool till they dropped off.
Come to think of it, I heard something about that big spender. Yeah, listen, Arlene, is Wayne Stuckey around? I want to thank him for something.
You mean you haven't heard?
He's in the hospital with this blue bug.
Captain Trips, they're calling it out here. Not that it's any laughing matter. People are scared staying in. We got 6 empty tables, and you know Jane's never had any empty tables. How's Wayne doing? Who knows? The hospitals have wards and wards of sick people, but no one can visit them. And there are lots of soldiers on the streets riding around with convoys with guns. It's spooky, Larry. People are saying the army got careless with one of those little plague jars. That's just scare talk. There hasn't been anything in the news.
Out here, there's been a little thing in the paper about getting flu boosters. But that's it. Better off where you are if you haven't gotten whiff of this.
Larry was thinking of his mother's cold, and how it had gotten better, then worse, and was now awful. And hadn't there been a lot of sneezing and coughing in the arcade he'd been in earlier? Like a TB ward. New York, thy name is paranoia. Lloyd Henry, described in the paper as the baby-faced, unrepentant killer, meeting with his court-appointed attorney, Andy Devins.
You were scared of Pope Freeman.
Well, I wasn't exactly.
You were terrified, Sylvester. You were sweating bullets.
And he held a gun on you at several points in that time during your so-called killing spree.
No, he never...
Yes, he did, Sylvester. You just forgot for a while. In fact, He threatened to kill you if you didn't back him up, isn't that right? Listen, Mr. Devins, first of all, my name's not. Listen to me, Sylvester, and listen carefully. You don't have the slightest idea how big a jam you're in. You're going to trial in 4 days. We'll have a jury on the first day. The state will present its case on the second. I'll try to take up 3 days. I'll filibuster on my opening and closing statements. But then, the jury will retire and find you guilty in about 3 minutes. And then, why, then you go on to death row and state prison and enjoy all that good food until it's time to ride the lightning. It won't take long.
You scared, Sylvester?
Christ, yes, I'm scared. From what you say, I'm a dead man. I don't want you dead, Lloyd, but I do need you scared. If you go into that courtroom smirking and swaggering, they'll strap you in that chair and throw the switch. But if you listen to me, we might be able to squeak through. I don't say we will, I say we might.
I understand.
Glad to hear it. Now, I believe if you search your memory, you'll remember Poke telling you that your gun was loaded with blanks and nobody was more surprised than you when it started firing real bullets, yes? Lloyd was like a bad student who had finally grasped his teacher's lessons. Yes, sir. About damn near had a hemorrhage. And you were about to turn your gun on Poke Freeman when he was cut down, saving you the trouble, correct? Stupid as he was, Lloyd Henry knew that unless a goddamn miracle happened, he'd have one roll with that jury. Double or nothing. Mr. Devins? That's just the way it went down, yes. Sheriff Baker's dead. He died a little after 2 o'clock this morning. Now his wife Janie's sick with it. Doc Soames' car had been weaving slowly down Main Street when Nick happened across it and waved for him to stop. Soames looked as if he had aged 20 years since the last time Nick saw him, when Soames treated his injuries. And Baker's not the only one. I've signed 12 death certificates in the last 12 hours. And I know another 20 who will be dead by noon unless God shows mercy. But I doubt if this is God's duty. What's the matter with him? I don't know, but I got it myself. Although what I'm suffering right now is simple exhaustion. Help me out of that car, Nick. To that bench over there. You're good to talk to. I suppose you've been told that. Symptoms are all very common. Chills, fever, headache, weakness, and loss of appetite. Painful urination, swelling of the glands, armpits, and then the groin. Respiratory weakness and failure. Those are the symptoms of the common cold, of influenza, of pneumonia. We can cure all those, Nick, but not this. This thing escalates, backs up, escalates again. Debilitation increases, the swelling gets worse, and finally, in every case I believe, death. Someone made a mistake, and they're trying to cover it up. Sounds slightly paranoid, doesn't it? But none of the phones in Shoyo work. And furthermore, the 2 Shoyo exits from the turnpike are closed off with barriers which say road construction. There's no construction. There's soldiers too, I've heard, at the exits, on the back roads, army vehicles blocking every way in and out of town. I repeat, someone made a mistake and now they're trying to cover it up. And in the meantime, how many people will die? Madness, madness. And you, Nick, how do you feel? A cold? Sneezing? Coughing? Nick shook his head no to each one. Will you try to leave town? I think you could, if you went by the fields. I can't leave the man I locked up. I'll get them fed, then go see Miss Baker. You're a thoughtful boy. That's rare. A boy in this degraded age who has a sense of responsibility is even rarer. You'll be careful of those 3 you have locked up, won't you? Nick nodded soberly. When he got back to the jail with breakfast, both Billy and Mike looked badly frightened as Vince Hogan was delirious with a fever. By 6 o'clock that evening, he would be dead. Mom! Larry tried calling to his mother. There'd be no answer. From behind her apartment's locked door, he heard a groan. Mom, where are you? Now a louder groan coming from... Jesus, Mom! Alice Underwood was laying on the floor, half in and half out of her bedroom. Her breathing was ragged, clogged with phlegm. Larry? Going to put you in your bed, Mom. The heat Alice's body was giving off terrified Larry. No one could remain so hot and live, he thought. Her brains must be frying in her head. Larry, go get your father. He's in the bar with that photographer. Outside, thunder was rumbling and rain was splattering the windows. Inside, you go tell your dad I said come home. Inside, Larry was dialing Mercy Hospital. Come on, come on. From his mother's bedroom, he heard a scream that chilled his blood. The phone rang 3 times. There was a buzzing sound, then a click, then a bright mechanical voice.
You have reached Mercy General Hospital. Right now, all of our circuits are busy. If you will hold, your call will be taken as soon as possible. Thank you.
Damn! Should he call a private ambulance? Or see if Mrs. Freeman, Alice's downstairs neighbor, would watch her while he went to the hospital himself? Mr. Freeman, he'd start there. Mom, listen to me. I'll be back. I'm going to go to the hospital. Larry was scared, terrified for his mother, but underneath that fear, another voice was talking to him, asking questions like, why do these things always happen to me? Why now? When I was finally turning it around. And the most despicable of all, how bad is Mom going to screw up my plans? How much of my life am I going to have to change around to deal with her mess? Larry hated that voice, that part of himself, and wished he could die a quick, nasty death. But it was still going strong as he knocked on Mr. Freeman's door. Mr. Freeman! It's Larry Underwood, Alice's boy! Mr. Freeman! If you're there, I need your help! Knocking that echoed like thunder. Daddy? What is it? Is it Mom? Franny? Responsibility is a pie, Franny thought. Some of it would have to be hers. It wasn't just charity work that made Carla Goldsmith sick. Is Mom all right? Tell me, Daddy. She got worse about a half hour after we talked. Her fever went up. She started to rave. I called the Sanford Hospital and they said that their ambulances were out on calls. Both of them. But that they would add Carla to their list. List? Since when do ambulances have waiting lists? They finally came about 15 minutes ago, and there were 6 people in the back of that ambulance. Her mother came out of it a little as they put her in. And she kept saying, I can't catch my breath, Peter. Why can't I breathe? Christ, Franny. What's happening? Daddy. Guilt gnawed at Franny, furry bodies inside her belly, where that other thing was, her baby, and she began to cry. Eat your pie, she told herself as she hugged her father. It tastes terrible and bitter, but eat your pie. Have seconds, have thirds. Eat your pie, Franny Goldsmith, eat every bite. In a kind of terrible odd coincidence, Alice Underwood in New York, Carla Goldsmith in Maine, and Jane Baker, who had shown Nick Andrews such kindness in Shoyo, would all 3 die the same day, mere hours apart. President called me. I've been relieved, Lynn. Of course, I knew it was coming, but it still hurts like hell. Jesus, Bill, when this country ought to be getting on its knees to kiss your feet. You're in charge now, Lynn. The president wants you in Washington as soon as you can get there. You're gonna have to tell him. It's out of control now. It's popped up in Oregon, Nebraska, Louisiana, Florida. Yeah, tentative cases in Mexico and Chile, too. The report just came in. And we're getting exactly nowhere with Stuart Redmond. Did you know we actually injected him with the blue virus? He thought it was a sedative. His body killed the virus, and no one has the slightest idea how. My daughter gave me a book of poems some years ago, Lynn, by a man named Yeats. He said that things fall apart, that the center doesn't always hold. The end of one poem gave me goosebumps the first time I read it, and it still does. What rough beast its hour comes round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. The beast is on its way, Lynn, and it's a good deal rougher than that fellow Yeats ever could have imagined. Things are falling apart. The job, your job, is to hold as much as you can together for as long as you can. Yes, sir. Yes, Billy. I have business to attend to. General Starkey slipped his West Point ring off his right hand and his wedding band off his left. For my daughter Cindy. See that she gets them, Len. I will, sir. Both men stood ramrod straight and saluted each other, tears streaming down Len Creighton's face. Starkey went to Project Blue's cafeteria, where Private Frank D. Bruce still lay with his face in a bowl of soup. Another dead man had a sign written in magic marker tied around his neck with a shoelace. Now you know it works. Any questions? Starkey was sobbing as he loosened the strap over the butt of his pistol and put its barrel into his mouth. When the blast came, it was muffled and undramatic. None of the corpses in the room of the dead took notice. None of them told Starkey that he'd been right, that the beast was coming. Randall Flagg, the Dark Man, strode south on US 51. It was an hour before dawn, and he was somewhere between Gransmere and Riddle, west of Twin Falls. still north of the Duck Valley Reservation that spreads across 2 states. And wasn't it a fine night?